Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Covering the Utes better than anyone else. This is Ute Insider Steve Bartle of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake, Scott, Ben, Anderson. Want to remind you to join Hanson, Scotty G at the El Matador Restaurant, 606 South Main in Bountiful, coming up next Tuesday from noon to 3. El Matador, a Utah Mexican food staple for over 50 years. Speaking of things that always sound good, Ben, Mexican food always sounds good.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Steve Bartle.
No, I wouldn't say that about Steve. You might have a cold and not sound good.
Okay, you're right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like it happens to the best of us.
Sure.
It's not a big deal. Out of the zone phone we go. He covers the Utes for KSLSports.com. He does a terrific job at that. He is our buddy Steve Bartle. What's up, Bartle?
Just looking at some Mexican food menus right now.
Yeah, buddy. It sounds good.
What's your go-to?
What is it there in Sandy? Right there off of 106. Why am I blanking on the name? Because we eat there. Los Cucos. That's the go-to, man.
Okay.
I like Guadalajara's, which is just an exit south
Ooh.
of that. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Real taqueria guy.
The adjacent bar called Donkey Tails, which I always thought was pretty aptly named.
All right. You can't get good Mexican food in Florida. It's crazy.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, you can't get anything good Mexican food east of Texas, probably. Yeah. Yeah. But everything's good west. Anyways, all right. Neither here nor there. Can the Utes play well east of Texas? Are the Utes going to show up in Central?
I love it. You had to think about that. You're like,
I am. I'm trying to mix up my directions. Is Utah going to show up today? I mean, I think this game and this opponent is such a step down compared to the last 3 weeks where Utah, I think, has played admirably. I know they got blown out by Colorado, but I thought they came in with an intent to win. I think they can beat Central Florida.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, right? Because Utah hasn't been in this sort of situation in a really, really long time. And so it's kind of unique in that sense. A lot of players haven't been through this sort of thing. And so, with the matchup with UCF, they've had a rough season of their own. Both teams are 4-7 coming into this one. UCF didn't have the same sort of expectations that Utah did, but they still were kind of viewed as a dark horse candidate in the Big 12 with, the way that Gus Malzahn utilized the portal to bolster their roster. And yet here we are, both teams 4-7 and both teams probably can't wait for the season to be over. So it'll be interesting tonight with this contest. UCF, they played the sort of game that, typically it's strength on strength where, their running game versus Utah's run defense. If, in years past, you feel pretty good about Utah's chances to and how they match up. But, this season has been a difficult one for the Utah defense. They've had a lot put on them because the offense has just struggled so much. And so they've had to play really great defense, and they haven't been able to get, the stops that they need to. And that's been difficult. And a big part of that is, there's been, big run plays, here and there against a lot of these opponents that have just sort of broken the defense's back, and that's tough. So, on paper, this is going to be a really, really tough one, and just kind of given the fact that this is on the road for Utah, it's coming off a holiday, and it's just sort of a weird game. This is going to be a really, really tough one, and players are going to have to dig deep. And frankly, I wouldn't blame them if they're just ready to punt on the season and move into the off season.
There's kind of a morbid practice in media where you write the obituary of somebody who hasn't passed yet because you just have her ready to go because it's really important once the moment happens. Ben loves it. I mean, he just loves writing obituaries. I'm curious, do you have the Kyle Whittingham retirement piece in the can, and what are the odds you have to publish that this weekend?
Yeah, it'll be obviously we know that Kyle Whittingham is going to take his time and evaluate his future. And, I thought his press conference on Monday was pretty telling, with where he's at. And, I thought it was even more telling. What he said was, I'm going to do what's best for the program, not me. And I think that was something that probably, caught a lot of people's attention, because the belief has been, that with the way that this season has gone, Kyle Whittingham doesn't want to end his career on this sort of note. But, just again, with the way that this season has gone, and with the way that college football and college athletics in general has evolved with, the transfer portal and NIL, there's just so much on a head coach's plate that I think it makes it more difficult for a Kyle Whittingham who has to dig deep probably to coach another year, just given all of that which comes with it, in a head coaching role nowadays. So, yeah, I think, there's a decent chance that this will be it for Kyle. And, he's going to go out on his terms. He's going to make the decision on his time. And, with what he's done for the program, regardless of what he decides to do, I genuinely believe him that he's going to do what's best for the program. And if that means another year, there are probably good reasons that he feels that way. And if not, if he feels it's time to move on, you understand that as well. So, yeah, I think we're definitely to that point where, I probably need to have an article prepared and ready to go just in case, because, as he said on Monday, he's going to take the time to evaluate things thoroughly. And honestly, I think.
I don't think it should, but does the early signing period happening, was it a week from now, less than a week from now, does that influence how quickly he needs to make this decision?
No, not at all, because they have a plan in place with the head coach and waiting with Morgan Scalley. And, that's been communicated to their current commits. And so there's no real concern with that. Obviously, though, with recruiting the transfer portal, which opens up a couple weeks later, you probably want to have a decision made by then, because that could impact things more so there than with their class, their recruiting class, because that's been communicated very clearly to them what's going to happen, and they probably have a good idea of where things are really at and that sort of stuff. So no real concern for signing day next week, but I do think there's probably a chance that there's probably could be an impact in terms of what it means for their ability to recruit in the transfer portal. So I do think, again, Kyle Whittingham's going to take his time with the decision, and he deserves that time, but he probably needs to have a decision made, around the time the transfer portal opens up, which, again, I think happens in a couple weeks.
What's the offense going to look like today with the Ferrari Luke Batari at the helm?
Yeah, it'll be it'll be interesting. I think Batari showed he's got some legs, he's got some wheels. He can run a little bit, so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Utah utilize the option more. That fits him well, and that could benefit the running game. And Mekhi Bernard, who I think he's 78 yards short of breaking the 1,000-yard mark, and I think that'll be a focus for Utah this game, is getting Mekhi to that 1,000 yards. So, I think we'll see, some option, and I think that'll be good for the running game to help open things up a little bit. So, that'll be something with Batari. Obviously, you understand that, he's not your typical D1 level type quarterback. He came from the JUCO ranks. He's a good passer, but his arm strength, is probably average. So you're going to see a lot of work in the underneath, and you'll probably see a couple shots, deep and that sort of stuff. But I think the key for Batari is, utilizing his athleticism, his willingness to run, and allowing that to open up the run game, and then just being efficient with the ball in his hands and making good passes. You saw it last week. He came in and he took the easy completions underneath on the crossing routes, and he allowed his guys to make plays after the catch. And I think that'll be another big factor with the offense tonight as well.
What do you make of Isaac Wilson's injury, his future at Utah? Do we have any idea what to expect there?
Yeah, luckily it's not super significant. I think the concern was that it was going to be a pretty serious injury. It sounds like it happened on the roll, after the initial contact on the play, and the worry was that it was a significant knee injury, but it sounds like they avoided that. And the belief is now that he'll be ready for things come January when they begin their winter workouts. He'll be able to hit the ground running there and be good to go for spring ball. So, just based on what I've heard, it sounds like he's avoided anything super serious, which is good. He just needs, 4 to 6 weeks to recover, to get right, and then he'll hit the ground running in January, I think.
And the expectations is he'll be back at Utah?
Yeah, I mean, that's the belief right now. Obviously there's a lot of talk that, with the way the season has gone and a lot of the frustration, there's still a belief that Isaac will be back and that sort of thing. And I think the offensive coordinator position and that hire could play a significant role in that. You wouldn't, and it should, right? You want to, when you bring in a talent like Isaac, and he's still a talent, obviously things didn't go, according to plan for him this season. The hope was that he'd be able to get time here and there sporadically throughout the season, and that didn't happen. And so it put him in a much more difficult spot and situation. And I think, that's tough for him. He had to step into a leadership role that he probably wasn't fully prepared for, given the expectations of this team and the veteran status of guys at other positions. It's hard to come into a situation like that when you're not fully prepared for it. So, I think there is still a level of expectation that he's going to be back next year. But again, you never know with the quarterback situation in college football. Things can change on a whim and all that. But I think there is that belief he'll be back. And with the OC, that can really help Utah's chances in keeping him in the fold.
Do we have any idea who that's going to be? You hearing anything?
Yeah, so wrote the article on the offensive coordinator candidates. And Utah's going to, Morgan Scalley's going to have a big voice in all of this, in my opinion. And I think that's the right way to go about it, just given kind of, his role in the future of the program. And so with the offensive coordinator position, a name that I've heard a lot of is Ben Arbuckle from Washington State. He's a hot name, in for a number of programs, Oklahoma and others as well. But I hear there's just a lot of confidence and optimism around Utah's chances with Ben Arbuckle. And then there's other guys. Mac Leftwich out of Texas State is another name. And then, he's led an offense there at Texas State the last couple seasons that's put up really good numbers. They've been, really competitive with a lot of Power 5 teams. I think it was them in Arizona State earlier this year that went toe-to-toe. And so you got a couple candidates there. And then another name, A.J. Milwee from Texas. He's the quarterback's coach, and obviously being there under Steve Sarkisian, he's not calling plays, but he has coordinator experience at Akron from a while back. He's recruited that quarterback position really well there. And so, if you can bring in somebody like Milwee, you potentially have an opportunity to bring in a quarterback. I'm not suggesting Arch Manning is going to follow him. That's not what I'm saying here. That is, although that would be ideal, but you have an opportunity there with a guy that's been at Texas for a few years. He has a pretty good reputation on the recruiting trail, and he has that background. And so that could be another option for Utah as well. Those are really the big three that I've heard so far. But there are a number of other candidates. Another guy that I think could be, kind of a sneaky good candidate is Jimmy Doherty up at Washington. Again, similar to A.J. Milwee, he's not currently calling plays, but he has play caller experience. He's been the quarterback's coach up there at Washington. He was the quarterback's coach at Arizona, played a big role in recruiting Noah Fafita and Tedero McMillan to Arizona. And so you like that. And he has a great reputation as a recruiter as well from his time at Arizona and UCLA. And that could be another option for Utah as well. So those are the four names that I've heard a lot about. But we'll see what happens. I think Utah is pretty determined to get somebody in place, or at least an idea of somebody in place before signing period, before next week. So things are going to happen pretty quickly here over the next few days.
Bartle, Ben and I were talking about how much participation we had in the preparation of the Thanksgiving meal and what our roles are in that. I'm curious, are you active in the preparation of the meal, or are you cultivating the groove on the couch?
No, I'm all about developing the good vibes on Thanksgiving. I am not not the food. I'm all about the vibes.
All right.
Keep me away from the food, but I will certainly help
Culture guy.
the vibes.
You're a culture guy.
Big culture guy. Yes, big culture guy.
It's important. It's important. I
It
agree.
is.
Yeah, big
It
deal.
is.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. Enjoy the game tonight. We appreciate your work.
Yep. Appreciate you, fellas. Have a good one.